Giovanni Verga was born in Catania in 1840. Here he attended the Faculty of Law without ever completing it, and he dedicates himself to literary activity and political journalism. He made numerous trips, going first to Florence and then to Milan. After composing several early works, he takes a part of verismo, a current that seeks the representation of the reality with particular attention to the humblest part of society. He spent the last years of his life in Catania and died here in 1922, the year of Mussolini's march on Rome and the rise of fascism. The novel, published in 1883, narrates the events of the Toscano family, known as the Malavoglia, who live in a small town of Acitrezza. The misfortunes of the Malavoglia began with the departure of Antoni to arms, which determined the lack of two strong arms for the work of Provvidenza. To overcome the economic difficulties, Padre Antoni is convinced to buy on credit a lot of lupins, which, through Providence, he must reach Riposto. But, due to a violent storm, the Providence is shipwrecked, the lot of lupins is lost, and with it Bastianazzo's life. After Antoni's return, this time it is Luca who undertakes military service, but with tragic implications, as he will die in the Battle of Lissa. Unfortunately, due to debts, the family is forced to sell the boat. The situation gets worse when the nephew Antoni intervenes and ends up in prison for smuggling, and the mother Maruzza La Longa dies of cholera. But the Malavoglia's misfortunes have not yet come to an end. In fact, Lia, overwhelmed by scandal, runs away from home and ends up becoming a prostitute. Due to family issues, Mena is also forced to give up on her marriage to her beloved companion Alfio. Finally, the misfortunes of the Toscano family end with the death of Padre Antoni due to illness. Alessi will be the one to take La Casa del Nespolo. The space of the village is dominated by the constant presence of the sea, which seems to accompany the hopes and sorrows of the fishermen like a musical background. The sea is at the same time a reason for life and economic survival and a cause of misfortune and death. It also takes an anthropomorphic connotations, typical of popular suggestions and beliefs. Sometimes it seems like an almost human presence, sensitive to weather conditions. It sleeps, snores, moves, and screams. It is perceived as both an internal and external space, as a friend and enemy place. Proximity to the coast takes on a positive value, while the open sea becomes a danger and a pitfall. A clear example is the death of Bastianazzo and Menico in the Malavoglia family, caused by the sea, a death which is only the first of the disasters that befell the family. The image provided by Verga brings to mind the shipwreck of Ulysses, the one who sank the fatal waters, who sees his raft destroyed due to the wrath of Poseidon, god of the sea, and who thus lands on the island of Phaeaci, where he finds his salvation. During the shipwreck, Ulysses is jealous of his companions who died in Troy. The sea has no limits and can be navigated until you find your own corner to crawl up in. Secondly, the way in which Antonio looks at the expanse that changes its colors and lights up with many boats here and there suggests that he will be the next one to take it. Water is something more than a chemical element. Literature has always shown us this, and Verga makes water his omnipresent character and notes that dying at the sea is an unknown death, a death that a hero must avoid. Verga does not bring us Bastianazzo's thoughts, perhaps precisely to allow us to imagine what the relationship between man and the sea was. We like to think that Bastianazzo and Menico welcome death without regrets. In the final passage of Malavoglia, we can sense Antoni's state of mind when faced with the choice to definitely move away from Casa del Nespolo and from Alessi and Mena, the only members of his ancient family who tenaciously survived the adversities of fate. The sea, with its vastness and its dark rumble, becomes a mirror of the unfortunate Antoni's lack of orientation. In fact, the character does not have a life plan, other than that of escaping from the precious nucleus of ancient affections, now denied by misfortunes of torn apart by time. Il nostro di Antoni si è concluso, anche se senza lieto fine, perché Antoni ancora non ha trovato la sua casa. La casa del nespolo probably hasn't closed its doors. Verga in fact only tells us about the barking of the dog that can be heard. But Antoni still knows that he hasn't found his Ithaca yet, and that he only can rely on the sea that in its grumbling is friendly and there first white than amaranth. The ending of Malavoglia, as already mentioned, leaves many questions unsolved, but presumably all the answers are to be found in the sea, and the reasons are multiple. First of all, the sea represents hope. By sailing, Antony could find his Ithaca. After all, Ulysses found the strength to overcome every difficulty and return home by the sea. The sea has no limits and can be navigated until you find your own corner to crawl up in. Secondly, the way in which Antony looks at the stretch that changes colors and lights up with many boats here and there suggests that he will be the next one to take it. Water is something more than a chemical element. Literature has always shown us this, and Verga makes water his omnipresent character.